Hey guys, how's it going? Azrach here, and today we're looking at another 3D printed custom action figure in my collection, and this figure is Vic Steel. Absolute labor of love. I just really wanted to make this figure, and from a very particular storyline as well. This is a DC inspired character, so as you can see, there's a whole bunch of inspiration, and I just wanted to make this figure because I didn't have him on my shelf, and I wanted to kind of do like a line like including all the figures from the comic line as well. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. There are a few tweaks that I want to make, but that's with everything. I just want to make improvements with everything that I do. So I think eventually down the line I might do like some updates to this figure and provide the files for people that have access to these files. Alright, so before we dive into any more details, there are two distinct resins I've used for this print. So all of the silver parts here, they're printed in the Resione M58 and Resione anti-impact mix. It's a 60% M58, 40% anti-impact mix for all the silver parts here. So this black was painted on later, and all the black parts here, these are completely printed in Resione K+. So that's why they have like this more injection molded kind of look, which I think is pretty cool. So I'll get into more of the details on the paints now, but those are the resins I used to print this, and I think I just really like the Resione resins. They do provide me with free resins to test out and try out, so I had a few bottles remaining that I wanted to test out for this figure, and I think it turned out absolutely amazing. So if you want to try these resins out, they're really good for action figures because they allow you that flex and also that non-grinding, non-dusting kind of properties as well. So it's a really good mix to try out. Alright, so let's quickly get into some of the paints and colors that I've used here. So again, I'm not going to take any credit for this. All the heads have been painted by my wife. She does a much better job. She's got a steadier hand to paint all the minute details, and I can't do as good of a job. Although I did botch it up by putting on the gloss coat at the end, which kind of made it look a little bit muddy. But wife painted the face, so I don't know what paint she used. The silver here is the Tamiya silver. I'll put the exact numbers down in the in a floaty thing or something. The red is also a Tamiya red, and the silver here is Tamiya silver. The black here is Tamiya black, and again throughout the figure it's either a Tamiya black or Tamiya silver. And the paints on the face were done with Vallejo colors. Alright, so some interesting things I tried to add to this figure is that I tried to make the head sculpts easily changeable. So there's a little bit of dust going on here, but basically I've hollowed these out and put them onto pegs so that they are posable and still easily swappable. So he has a few additional heads. So this is the fully human head. I did kind of loosen this up a little too much, so that's why it's like bouncing around, but it functions pretty much well, no issues there. And we've also got angrier looking head, which I think probably fits the best because of how I messed him up. But yeah, he's got 3 swappable heads, which is something completely new I tried. He's got interchangeable gauntlet pieces as well, so we can easily take this gauntlet piece off and swap it with one of his cannon blaster arms, so that just plugs right in. Might be a bit tighter on this because I've been doing it on the other arm, but yeah, so that's what it looks like swapped out. You can swap either arm, which is pretty cool. So something that I tried new for this figure. So because we're already on accessories now, let's get into some of the accessories. This figure is supposed to have a jetpack, which I did not print out because I don't know, I got lazy. Maybe I am very lazy, so maybe that. He's got the cannon blaster arm. He's got additional swappable hands and also this arm that it comes with, and I'll quickly show you the swappable hands as well. He's got a fist hand for this hand, for his left hand, and also kind of a reaching out kind of gesturing hand as well. So if we plug that in, that's what it looks like, a more angry kind of hand. And it's easily swappable, which is cool, and it articulates, so no issues there. It'll swivel around everything you want, and it sticks on as well, which is amazing. For his other arm, exactly the same, swappable gauntlet. You can take out the hand, it could come out either way, but it stays on pretty well. So you can take it out and then swap around the hands. So we've got extra sets for both of these, and I'll quickly take you through these as well. So we've got extra sets for these as well. and they're painted with the Tamiya kind of silver. They articulate well, which is pretty darn cool. I'll quickly pop this back on so that he's got a swapped out hand now. And technically the way the figure is, and from the source material, his right arm is supposed to have like the cannon, which I think having an interswappable was cool enough because he's a cyborg and he could pretty much like do things that we can't. We also have this grippy kind of hand that I just made on my own because I felt like he just needed an additional arm that would look really cool. Unfortunately, this piece broke off when I was trying to paint it because I didn't heat it up and I was stupid, so that's that. Other than that, these all articulate as well. It's pretty neat, and you can get it to pose into like some really cool poses to add that dynamic kind of effect. If you have some effect pieces that shoot something out of this, that would look super cool. I should have printed it out. I didn't. Something to consider for the next figure, although some paint slop as well, so that should be more red or painted better, but I'm lazy again, so I didn't. And that part should be better black. I just did one coat and then I gave up, so that's on me, but I think it looks pretty cool. And of course the jetpack that goes in the back that I did not print out for this figure, but that's where it slots in. So now that we've got into the head and accessories and everything this figure comes with, let's quickly get into some articulation as well. So the head can look all the way up, no issues. Although if you pop it up and then tilt it back, it's gonna look further, and then you can pop that back on, but it still will kind of do everything you want it to do. Side to side, it can turn all the way around, no issues, and it will stick to its position. Quickly take that off. With the neck, it is a ball joint in there, but it's a little bit more stiff because of the plastic that's surrounding it, so I made that so that it doesn't move around too much, but it looks like it's a little bit tight, so we're gonna leave that as is for now. I could have just made that a single piece and it would have been the same articulation, which is unfortunate. With the shoulder pads, they basically go up and down, allowing you to position your hand a little bit better. So he can pretty much go out this much because of the pauldron in the way. He has like a butterfly kind of thing in there, so he should be able to do a lot more, but then there's a little bit of restriction because of how the design works. So it is what it is. With the biceps, they can rotate around fully, no issues. Double elbow joints, so the top one didn't trigger there. Let me just quickly get it to trigger. Double elbow joints, which crunch up pretty well considering he's a beefy boy. Wrist articulation, I've already gone through a little bit earlier. With the torso, he has some back movement, some forward movement. He can crunch about that much. Let me try to see how much further back he can go. So yeah, he can pretty much stand straight, unfortunately. There is twist in the upper abs, so there's a dumbbell joint in there. The waist is a little bit more tight on this figure. I would really like to have like flexible crotch piece, which would make the legs more movable, but they are a little bit less movable than I want them to be. It's just the way resin works. If it was a more rubbery piece, this part here, it would work so much better. Hopefully one day I'll just make my own action figure line. That'd be awesome. So elbows on this arm can go that deep, and then with the upper elbow triggered as well, it could go a lot deeper, which can do a little bit more than that. But then because the bulky part here, it does hinder that a little bit. This cannon part can swivel around without any issues, although you might need to push it in a little bit after you position it so that it stays on. It's staying on completely based on friction. It doesn't fall off, which is good. The waist, if you had a rubbery piece here, basically could do anything you'd want it to, fully 360, all of that good stuff. But because it's plastic, the knobs are kind of running into the body a little bit, so a little bit disappointing. In terms of the thighs, there's a lot of articulation here, so he can basically do a drop down pretty much till there, which will allow him to kick forward about that much for a bulky guy because of the top running into the crotch piece again. If this was rubber, it would have gone up so much higher. Unfortunate. Double joint in the knees, so it goes about that deep, which is a pretty awesome double jointed knee. It's almost like the knees are the two leg pieces are almost parallel, which is, I think, cool. And then they can come all the way back to standing straight again, which is sick. He should be able to kick out as well if we drop down about that much. A little bit less. Oh, hold on, we should be able to get more. There we go. All right, he should be able to kick out about that much, because there's a kind of a gap out at the top there. So if you align it well, it should just go right in and then kick out about that much. And then we'll realign it. And with the ankles, it's a double ball peg, so it should allow you to do a lot of cool things because it's double ball peg. So yeah, it's a double dumbbell. It's a dumbbell joint, basically double ball peg. So it should do quite a lot. So yeah, that's the articulation for this guy. I think he's pretty cool. There are some loose joints that I want to kind of talk about here. It's not about the design, it's more how the pieces fitted together. Like, I would have wanted the shoulders to be a little bit more solid. I feel like they have a little bit more of a hollow kind of quality there, and because the cannon is a solid piece, it just droops a little bit further, and then it can't hold up unless you go out, which will hold a little bit more. But then if you're not going out with the actual arm, it won't hold in place. So something to be mindful of. I feel like if I had hollowed out this cannon part, it would have been a little bit better, which yeah, definitely would have been something that I should have looked into hollowing out, but I didn't. I did not hollow out this piece either, which I should have. There is some, I guess I could have put some holes in there so they would drip out, or I could have designed it in such a way that it just has natural holes, so that there's not like a whole bunch of pieces like working in here to keep everything intact. Mistakes made, but I think if you have the opportunity to print this guy out, hollowing out might be a thing you need to consider, just to give it like a little bit less weight and more posability. So here we have the whole gang together. On the left here we've got the Ocean Master, and on the right we've got the Speedrunner, whose face is a little bit more hidden because of the way I posed him. I put some Marvel Legends like effects on him to make him look like he's got super speed, which is cool. And we've also got the remains of the first action figure I ever made. This guy basically took a shelf dive when we were moving home, and unfortunately the peg here broke. Everything else stayed intact, which I'm pretty happy about actually. So if you kind of put everything together, I'll just roughly try to put everything together so that you guys can see what I'm talking about as well. But I'm really surprised, like before we get into that, I'm really surprised that all the joints have held up pretty nicely. So they still function, they're still tight. This was printed using the M58 resin mixed with 15% Ceratec Tenacious, which is, yeah, still holding up, and it's still articulating and sticking to places I wanted to stick to, which is absolutely amazing, I think. And I printed this like years ago. Yeah, there were a few pieces that broke because of the shelf dive, but I think all in all, whoops, broke more pieces again. But all in all, like if I put him together roughly, still a pretty decent figure. One of my highest selling figures on Cults 3D as well. Thank you everyone that bought him. Thank you everyone that supported. But yeah, basically that's what he would have looked like if he was still standing. Unfortunately he's not, so I might need to do like a reprint of him, or maybe a re-sculpted version of him so he looks cooler. The wrist pegs did break off because this was the first version of my wrist pegs, and yeah, they're not as strong as the new ones I'm using on Vic Steel. But yeah, it is what it is. Just a quick, I guess, jog down memory lane. First figure that I ever made. I'm still pretty happy with how this guy turned out. And because of how broken this guy is now, I just wanted to take you guys through a little bit of the articulation to show you that this guy is still functioning, which is absolutely amazing, honestly. Like, I would have never dreamed that resin would be this durable. But yeah, there's no issues with him whatsoever. He can still articulate pretty well. There are some tight joints here and there, but he can still articulate pretty well, which is amazing. Double joint in the elbows, head, yeah. And there have been some questions from people asking me why I don't have like a lot of paint rub or joint rub or things like that. It's because I leave some tolerance. So if you can see in there, I leave some tolerance in there for the joints to stay in. So there's a circular disc within that joint that's actually holding on to this piece, the joint and the pieces connected through that other joint or a disc. That's why like the disc would grind, but everything else has like a little bit of tolerance. It's not too much to make it look very visible or stand out a lot, but it still has enough of a gap that it doesn't scratch any of the paint off. This figure is completely painted in this kind of color, so it is not scratching off at all, which is pretty cool. All right, so in this storyline, our figure is a little bit taller than the rest of the guys. So this is just a quick height comparison so that I can showcase how tall he is. So this is the Mafex Cyborg action figure from the Justice League movie. That's the first version, not the second one. So 16-inch action figure, slightly smaller than our 16-inch action figure, but within the storyline, Vic Steel was a lot taller than the other guys. So I think this kind of makes up for it. He wasn't like humongous, like massive, like how McFarlane made him, but he's still tall enough to be slightly above average. I think 6'6", 6'7" kind of height. We've also got the DCUC Batman action figure right next to Vic Steel, and on this side we've got the DC Icon 6-inch Cyborg action figure. He came with a whole bunch of like additional tools and stuff, which is pretty cool. And on the extreme right here, we've got the McFarlane DC Multiverse Zack Snyder's Justice League Cyborg action figure. Alright, so just because we showcased how big Vic Steel was, let's dwarf him absolutely in comparison. So on the extreme right here, we've got the Monster of Doom action figure that I released on Patreon, was it December last year? And he's also available on Cults 3D if you want to buy him now, also on Patreon. And a little bit of shameless plugs, but also my Nightbreaker action figure on the left, who is the first big fig I did after my Vigilante Bat action figure. So I made him a little bit taller, a little bit bigger. I'm gonna confess, I did not entirely know how muscles work in a human being when I was doing this guy. So the muscles do look a little bit weird, but I don't know, for some weird reason, the snatched waist and the huge upper body with the huge legs kind of works here. So I don't know what it is. It just, I guess I've got my days where I like it and days where I don't, but I don't know, today it looks all right. So I guess it's more for you guys to decide. Again, this one also had the problem where the wrist broke off, and I put some blue tack in there to support it. So with all the new wrists that I'm making nowadays, the actual pegs are a lot thicker and they have like a bigger stem going into the ball peg, so there's less chance of breakage. So that should give you like some peace of mind that it's gonna actually stay intact. And because we've got this thicker ledge here that's going into the ball peg, it just holds on to the arm a lot better as well, the hand a lot better as well, so the figure actually stays on. Now for some other action figures, here we've got the WWE Ultimate Edition Rock action figure, and here we've got the amazing Yamaguchi Superman New 52 action figure. They're pretty cool action figures, and I think Superman scales well with Vic Steel. Should be a little bit shorter, but Superman's obviously got that wider stance, so he looks a little bit shorter still. So I think they should be comparable in height, but yeah, I think this works. Again, Rock is just for like a comparison if you guys are into WWE action figures. And for our final comparison, next to a couple of Marvel Legends that are gonna turn into custom DC Legends, this is the Black Panther, who I hope to be turning into like a version of Batman, and this is the Vulcan action figure, who I could possibly turn into a Superman, but I'd probably have to do either a lot of painting or put like a suit on top of him. I'm still figuring that out. Next to Vic Steel. And finally, the inspiration that gave birth to all of my action figures, like completely. This is the Mafex Hush Batman action figure, the first figure I got from Mafex, the thing that started it all for me. I really love this figure, and I'm trying to make this line as compatible to the Mafex line as possible so that you can do interchangeable things, get characters that Mafex might never ever get to. So I'm trying to make more of these figures, which I'm really enjoying. Obviously with 3D printable files, they are scalable, so you could turn them into like a McFarlane sized action figure if you wanted to as well. And also the final shameless plug, my custom superhuman action figure that is part of this month's Patreon rewards. So it's a prototype body without the chest logo obviously, but with like a mullet head that I improved a lot more since. who has neck articulation. I didn't do the head articulation because I just wanted to test the height and the size out of this figure. There were some improvements done to thin out the thighs further because these were like very humongous, so I did trim that down a little bit. If you look at the joints now, they're much more condensed or compact, and everything looks much more seamless. So the joints all work as they should. Although I think, yeah, I had cut more of this out so it could go in a little bit further. The joints work as they should, which is pretty cool. You can get it to twist and crouch and do everything you want it to, which is pretty cool, I think. Yeah, the joints also are much thicker so that you get more lasting kind of joint, and then yeah, it just works so well. So I'm really happy with where I've gotten the figure to now. Obviously doing like an updated version of this. I'm hoping to paint this guy next. So there's an updated version that's, I'll show you what the parts look like before I put them together. But yeah, that's the Superhuman action figure. If you want to get access to the files, check him out on my Patreon. Subscribe to my Patreon and you'll get access to him for this month. Next month, I'm doing the other half of the World's Finest, which if you know who this guy is, you'll probably know who that guy is as well. But yeah, it's an inspired character. So yeah, I'm doing some awesome kind of diorama pieces as well. I think it's awesome. Again, you might not. So for the next one, we'll have like a huge thing that goes on top of a roof, and this guy also came with like a diorama ego base. If you want to check that out, check it out on my Patreon. I also put it up on my Instagram as well. So before everything is painted, everything basically just lives in like this takeaway container. And like I was saying before, I've obviously redone the head so that it has longer locks and is a little bit better than that one. I basically spent hours just trying to do this hair. I know I'm still not the best at hair, but I think this came out a little bit better than that guy. So with this version, I also have done a few shorter haired versions as well, so you can get like either classic look. This was there was a vote and people voted for like the 90s look for Superhuman, so I kind of did that. And then I've got like both versions, so the short hair, long hair, and a few different expressions. Like this guy is angry, and this guy is just stern looking, whereas the other guy that I showed up first was smiling. So there's a few different options there. There's a laser eye version as well, and then these are all the parts that go into making one of these figures. Alright, so last thing I wanted to touch on before I get back to our figure that we should actually be focusing on, but I kind of sidetracked myself quite a bit. But yeah, I usually do these videos where I kind of try to script them, so I'm saying like certain things so I don't miss out on talking about the actual figure. This one, I'm winging it a lot, and I'm actually coming at you guys with like a very open, kind of straight from my heart kind of position. So if I'm saying anything that's weird or awkward, please let me know and I'll do like more scripted videos. But I feel like if I want to connect with you guys, my audience, I should do it from the heart. So I'm trying it out. Let me know what you guys think. But basically what I want to talk to you about this guy was, because I'm trying to expand what I do, and I want to do more customs where we've got like base bodies that are amazing, like this guy, which is based on the Vulcan body, obviously Black Panther from Marvel Legends. I want to do like a kit of sorts for this guy. So he's got like the Batman gauntlets, and this guy would make a pretty cool stealth black version of Batman that I guess DCUC kind of gave us a version of that as well. I'm trying to make this into that kind of Batman, so I think that would be pretty cool. So I'll probably be doing new boots for him as well, and a new gauntlets and wrists and the whole hands and all that. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. I also really like the Marvel Legends kind of body type going forward as well. So I'm thinking of maybe doing a base body on this kind of articulation scheme. So let me know what you guys think, if that's going to be a good idea or not. I might not be able to commit to that immediately, but I think as a long term, something that I do maybe 3-4 months down the line, that's something that's interesting as well. Alright, so there you have it guys, another 3D printed action figure showcase done. I think this one turned out pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to be doing a few poses and then basically taking pictures so I can set it up so that my YouTube video gets like a whole bunch of views. So I'm going to be doing that now, but there's a whole bunch of things I went through today. I showcased like this action figure, a bunch of other different action figures I've printed throughout the years, and also how parts have held up. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I've also described every single thing that I've used for this figure. The only thing I forgot to mention is that I'm using the Uniformation GK2 as my 3D printer, which is an amazing printer, especially for the winters. It's got a heated bed, basically allows you to print at any given time, even if it's winter. Doesn't really matter, it'll just print it for you. Amazing printer, I've been loving it. No fails so far. I definitely recommend Resione resins for 3D printed action figures. They hold up, although you need to tweak joints to be specific for the medium, because if you can see like everything that I've gone through today, all the joints are thicker and they have more support, so that there's a thicker intersection of resin within like the part, so it doesn't break off easily. Thinner parts do tend to break off easily. It's not as strong or durable as plastic, and hopefully one day resins will become that strong. I've got the Nightbreaker action figure that I printed I think more than a year ago now, that's still functional and that's still holding up. Like even the Vigilante Bat action figure that I showed you guys earlier, that still articulates and has that kind of rigidity that doesn't just flop around. I think that's amazing with what we can do with resin now. So let me know what you guys think. It was all straight from the heart, so I did ramble on probably a little bit too long. If you like this video and the format of it, let me know. If you want me to go back to just being very specific and touching on points, maybe let me know about that as well. If you want to get this action figure or any other action figure, stay tuned to my Patreon shop as well as my Cults 3D page, and also on my Instagram. I post there a bunch, so if there's anything interesting, I'll always keep you guys updated there. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to my rambling. I hope you enjoyed this video. There are a bunch of Patreons that are supporting me as well, so their name should be scrolling across the screen now. Thank you everybody that has supported me on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching again. I'll see you guys next time.